Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Before I dive into today's review, I do want to mention if you'd like to support the Gaming Gang, we now have a Patreon, and that link is in the show notes. And of course, be sure to hang with the gang because there is an invite link to our Discord server also in the show notes. So today I am going to review Grit Fantasy RPG from Gnomebot Studios. This is written and illustrated by Jeremy Pete, and this 132-page softcover with PDF is available over at DriveThruRPG for $18.99. Of course, if you just want to grab the PDF alone, you can do so for $9.99. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got Grit Fantasy RPG. A couple of things I want to mention before we jump on in. First of all, the fine folks over at Gnomebot Studios were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. It's important you know that. I'm also not going to look at each and every page of the book. I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside Grit. And the first thing I'm going to say is I just always want to say grit, not just grit. All right, let's take a peek at the credits page. A lot of folks contributed to bringing this to life. So let's give some credit where credit is due. A lot of folks did playtesting and support. Grit is a very, very rules-light fantasy role-playing game. And this is really designed for one-shots, very, very short campaigns. And I could easily see this being used for 2-3 hour sessions at game conventions or even real quick tournament adventures at cons. So the core concept to this is rolling a 12-sided die for your action resolution. Now, if it's just a static roll, if you're trying to achieve something that's not going to be challenged by any way, shape, or form, you're going to be rolling your 12-sided die. You'll have modifiers for your aspects or attributes in Grit, and you're going to look at your total. So, of course, right here, we've got our target numbers: easy 3, average 6, hard 9, absurd 12. And that will determine your success or failure. We also have focus dice. So each player will receive a D4, D6, D8 at the beginning of the session, and they may spend those once a die roll has been made to add to their die roll. Once it's been used, it is lost. So just some extra focus that player character is actually using to try to achieve success. So I like that, kind of cool. And it's not something that you get to utilize too often, so it's not going to unbalance the proceedings. We also have opposed rolls. We have combat, a little bit different. So as far as combat goes, you'll have a might aspect that you use for melee. And then we have prowess, which is used for range combat. You're going to have a target number. You're going to roll your die, and whatever you beat the target number by is the amount of damage that you will do. And your health is called grit. Player characters start with 10 points of grit. Your NPCs, monsters, creatures, it's going to vary. Could be far less than 10 or quite a bit more than 10, depending on how tough they are and if they are mooks, goons, or bosses, which is more in the Game Master section. So we've got gear slots for our encumbrance. We've got resource usage, but all in all, just really, really simple to jump on into. We do have some optional rules. We've got some variations if you want to make combat a little more tactical, but for the most part, you are looking at a game that's focused on the theater of the mind. As far as character creation, we have a dozen different lineages. And if you're using the lineages and you utilize the modifiers for each of the lineages for your aspects, you're going to find that you're going to have some positive modifiers, some negative modifiers. As far as just creating a character and not using those outlines for the lineages, you get a +2, a +1, and 3 -1s for your aspects. And as far as the aspects go, might, prowess, valor, insight, and command. Easy peasy. So as far as combat goes, when you're in combat, when you do damage, your target or yourself, if you're taking damage, might have armor or some other item that's going to soak damage. So you'll subtract that from the damage, and then the rest carries over and is subtracted from grit. As far as who's going first, who's going second, who's going third, it's all up to the players and the game master. So you're not rolling for initiative or anything like that. Take you 5-10 minutes to learn how to play this at a convention or at a game day and things like that. So the vast majority of the page space in Grit is going to be devoted to our monsters. So we do have a game master section here with a lot of random tables. If you want to just roll stuff up, you certainly can. We have an NPC builder, which gives us various different random aspects of our NPCs. We have magic effects, traps. Once again, like I said, we've got our monsters. We do not have any sort of character advancement outside of the gear that you utilize. And we don't have classes either, because that is determined by your gear. So if you are a magic user or a warrior or a rogue, that is determined by your gear. And there is a gear table, and the players are able to select one piece of gear for their starting character. So that's going to put them on the path to the sort of archetype that they want to play as. So we have mooks, goons, and bosses, which essentially just gives us a difficulty rating for each of the monsters. We have a lot of monsters in the bestiary section here, and they're all rated as mooks, goons, and bosses. I thought that was kind of cool that you can, on the fly, tweak the difficulty of the monsters and creatures and NPCs without having to get bogged down in trying to figure out, well, is this balanced? Is this not balanced? Or anything like that. So we will have some special traits for these monsters as well. So we get explanations of those. Each entry is going to give us some information about that creature. So here, a crypt scarab. It's a tough parasite, leaping latch. It affixes to the target's sternum after a short-range leaping attack. Any damage now dealt to the scarab is also dealt to its living host. It's got essence drain, corpse animator. Crypt scarabs are cursed mechanical beetles with sharp-bladed feet. Their palm-sized shells are made of polished bronze and are covered with strange etchings. Once attached to a host, the crypt scarab slowly kills, then reanimates its lifeless body. The moment an animated corpse is destroyed, the scarab will leap toward the nearest living victim and attempt to attach, starting the process over again. There are some really cool entries in this too. And it's not just your typical orcs, kobolds, goblins, hobgoblins, bugbears, and so forth. As you can see, we've got the Moogling, the Moloch. So very nicely done. Artwork throughout is very cool too. I will say, Grit Fantasy RPG is aimed at having fun. This is not designed to simulate anything or like be a real heavy sort of role playing game by any stretch of the imagination. I will say that I do wish that there had been some rules for character advancement outside of just getting more gear to give you more abilities. I could see this easily being a fantasy role playing game that parents could use to introduce their kids, and I don't necessarily mean really small kids, to fantasy role playing games, as well as introducing people who have never played a role playing game to our hobby without overwhelming them with a lot of rules and details and feats and abilities and things like that. Because a lot of times with some of these rules light role playing games, especially something that's specifically designed for one shots and very, very short campaigns, what I hear from a lot of gamers is why would they bother to pick something up that they're only going to use a few times? They're only going to bust out a handful of times. I certainly do understand that. That's why I do wish that we had some advancement rules as well as an introductory adventure, because we do not have that. Now, we do have some GM tables for you to randomly generate stuff, but I always love to see a quick introductory adventure so you can actually see how the game design is supposed to be applied to your adventuring. Sadly enough, that is not present in Grit, although I think there are at least one or two adventures in PDF for Grit Fantasy RPG. All right, let's swing back over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts as well as my review score. I gotta say, I think Grit Fantasy RPG is a lot of fun. I would have a blast playing this as a player. As a game master, it's probably a little too light for my personal preference, but as a player, I think this would be an absolute blast and will really appeal to a lot of people out there. Sadly, because it doesn't have character advancement rules outside of getting more gear or loot, I guess I should say, and there's no adventure in here, it's not going to appeal to as many people as it could. And all in all, I think that is a drawback to Grit Fantasy RPG. Once again, as I said, I really do think that this is an excellent introduction for kids as well as folks who've never gone near a role playing game in their lives to kind of get them on board with the hobby. But there's not going to be much there to keep them on board with Grit. They're going to segue if they're having a good time, if they enjoy it. They're going to probably segue out to other more complete fantasy role playing games. And that's too bad because there's a lot to really recommend with Grit. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I give Grit Fantasy RPG a 7.5 out of 10. I like it. I recommend it. I wish I could recommend it with a higher review score, but it's just missing some things that I really think would be advantageous for Grit Fantasy RPG to contain. All right, that is it for this time out. If you liked the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. If you would like to support the Gaming Gang, be sure to check out our Patreon. There is a link down in the show notes. And of course, hang with the gang over on Discord. There's an invite to our Discord server as well in the show notes. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.